Alright guys, in this video I'll be showing you how I rendered out and colored this image of Miles Morales. So if you're interested in seeing how I do this, stick around to the end of the video. So I'm starting with a simple gray just to act as a color hold, and then I'm just creating a clipping mask, and then I'm selecting different areas that are going to have different colors, like his face. I'm going to select that, put that on another layer and clip it to that layer. Select his costume and his hair and clip them to different layers, so I can just go in and color in a non-destructive way. So I'm just starting out by using the airbrush to, just painting some of his base colors, his skin tone, the color of the costume, and then the light source. I'm thinking of having a complementary color scheme with the lighting. So I'm going to have a cool light source coming from the top left, and then a hot red light coming from the bottom right. So right now I'm just selecting all the forms that are going to catch the lights, and then using the airbrush to add in more of that color. You can see, and this is where understanding the planes of the face can come in really handy. Like, you really want to take the time to study the planes of the face, because when it comes to rendering the face, all you need to know is the planes. Now, if you're not familiar with the head planes, it's simply a way artists divide the head up to further simplify it in a way that makes it easier to understand the head in a more three-dimensional way. When you identify each plane of the head, it makes it easier to break up the different sides and identify where light and shadow will appear, given the direction of your light source. You can check out Andrew Loomis drawing the head and hands for a more detailed explanation. So right now I'm just adding, you can see as I'm adding some colorations to his face, just to show, because our skin tone isn't just one particular color. It's going to change based on where it's more visible that blood is flowing and everything. Like around the nose usually has a bit of red, around the eyes as well, and the ears. And for this piece, I wanted to just experiment a bit with my art style by leaving in the sketch layer. So you can see those hatching. Like on the sketch layer, I did some hatching as well to show some rendering. So, and then like you can see what I said about the planes of the face. You can see how I'm just making those selections and using the airbrush. I like using the polygonal lasso tool because it gives it an element of hardness. And then I now pair it with the airbrush just to give it that just to give you some gradation. And now the image is coming together. I'm just experimenting with the colors, trying to just figure out if that red is actually the best color to go for this, to go with the blue. So in order to show, now when you're rendering, if you want to show a change of direction in the form, you just select that area, and then depending on whether the light is going to hit that area, or if it's turning towards the light or turning away from the light, you want to either add in more of that color or less of that color, or even more like a darker value to show that it's turning away from the light, show that it's in shadow. Now I'm using a texture brush to just add in some detail in the hair. Adding some detail to his eyes. And now I'm using the same light sources to render out the hair. So I'm just using some textures. Like you can see the squiggly lines underneath that I did with the sketch. So it just helps sell the look. And then I'm adding even more shadows to certain areas just to make the hair pop. And then I'm going in the areas that are facing away from the lights, and I'm using, because the light source from below is a hot red, so I'm using, on a multiplier layer, I just pick a cooler blue, and then those areas that are facing away from that red light, I'm adding in shadows with the blue hue. And I'm using some screen tones to just make everything look a bit stylized. And then you notice how I'm darkening. You see that point where it's like transitioning from red to blue lights, right? There's something called a terminator. It's the transition zone between areas of light and shadow. The darker part of the shadow normally begins directly after the terminator line ends. The terminator line is just a dark gradating band that fades away as the secondary light source gets more intense. Meaning that, okay, let's say you have a key light falling on a character, and then there's some bounce lights. For instance, let's say you have a key light falling on a character, and then you have the shadow side. So normally the bounce light is going to come from the opposite side, making the opposite side of the shadow area even lighter. So the darkest area is going to be just at the transition from the key lights towards the shadow area. Now the secondary light source in this case is the slightly weaker red lights coming from below. Normally the softer your key light is, the more gradual the terminator will be. But since you have a harsh, intense key lights, which is the blue light coming from above, the terminator will appear sharper and less gradual, as it defines a change in direction from that side plane to the front plane of his head, where the red light is filling it in from below. I hope that made sense. And then also added the circular screen tones to his costume. And there's something I like to do with line arts. I just duplicate the line art layer, change the color to a reddish color, and then I set it on linear burn, and then add a bit of Gaussian blur to it. It just has this soft effect on your line art. It's something that is used a lot in anime actually, but I just like the effects it gives your line art. And now, because I'm too lazy to start drawing detailed backgrounds, I just went on Splash and downloaded some stock images. I wanted to have this comic panel style background, so I made the comic panels and then clipped the background to those panels, and then added some overlay so the background isn't just empty. And then for another version, I just had a white background with some text. Now I'm just doing some final adjustments. So that's it for this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Comment below what you think about the video, and if you haven't subscribed already, hit that subscribe button. Till next time.